October 14, 2023. 11:42 p.m. 27-year-old Daniel Mercer walks past a convenience store camera in downtown Columbus, Ohio, unaware that the last confirmed image of him is being recorded. The footage shows Daniel moving calmly through the dimly lit parking lot, phone in hand, shoulders relaxed. Nothing about his behavior suggests urgency, fear, or danger. Just another late-night stop on the way home. Hours later, Daniel Mercer will vanish. When investigators first reviewed the surveillance video, they logged it as routine. Daniel exits the store, crosses the parking lot, and disappears out of frame. No struggle, no suspicious vehicle, no visible threat. Case closed on that piece of evidence. But months later, when someone decides to slow the footage down frame by frame, a detail emerges in the background that no one noticed the first time. Not the officers, not the detectives, not even the technicians who archived the recording. And once you see it, it becomes impossible to ignore. Because hidden in the corner of that camera's view is a moment that should have changed the entire investigation. A moment investigators dismissed as nothing. And that single decision will come back to haunt them forever. October 14, 2023. 11:42 p.m. 27-year-old Daniel Mercer walks past a convenience store camera in downtown Columbus, Ohio, unaware that the last confirmed image of him is being recorded. The camera mounted above the store entrance captures him stepping out into the cool autumn air. The parking lot is quiet. Sodium streetlights cast a dull orange glow across the asphalt, stretching long shadows behind the rows of parked cars. Daniel pauses near the door, glances at his phone, and slips it back into his jacket pocket. Nothing about the moment feels unusual. Inside the store, a clerk is restocking a refrigerator. A sedan idles near the gas pumps. The city moves at its usual late-night rhythm. Daniel walks across the parking lot, his pace relaxed, the way someone moves when they believe they are simply heading home. At the time, investigators would review this footage and see exactly that. Nothing. But that ordinary moment will eventually become the most dissected 30 seconds of video in the entire investigation. Because Daniel Mercer was not the kind of person who simply disappeared. Friends described him as methodical, responsible, and predictable in the quiet ways that often define a person's life. He grew up just outside Columbus in the suburb of Grove City, the oldest of two brothers. His parents, Laura and Stephen Mercer, ran a small accounting firm out of their home for most of Daniel's childhood. Numbers came easily to him. Patterns made sense. After graduating from Ohio State University with a degree in information systems, Daniel built a steady career working as a cybersecurity analyst for a regional healthcare network. It was the kind of job that required patience and precision. Hours spent tracing digital footprints that other people overlooked. The work suited him. Daniel wasn't reckless. He wasn't impulsive. He was the person friends called when they needed someone dependable. Every weekday morning, he left his apartment at exactly 7:15 a.m., grabbing coffee from the same cafe near High Street before heading into the office. His co-workers joked that you could set a clock by his schedule. And in many ways, Daniel liked it that way. Routine meant stability. But outside of work, Daniel had a life that was slowly expanding. He had recently moved into a new apartment near the Short North Arts District, trading the quiet suburbs for the energy of downtown Columbus. The building overlooked a stretch of streets filled with small restaurants, music venues, and late-night cafes. It was a change he had been thinking about for months. His girlfriend, Emily Carter, remembered the excitement in his voice the day he signed the lease. He wanted to be closer to everything, closer to friends, closer to the city, closer to the future he was building. Emily and Daniel had been together for nearly 2 years. They met at a mutual friend's birthday dinner, seated next to each other by coincidence. By the end of the night, they were arguing playfully about their favorite movies and sharing stories about their childhoods. Their relationship grew slowly, comfortably. They weren't dramatic people. No constant fights. No sudden breakups. Just quiet weekends cooking dinner together, walking through local street festivals, or watching old documentaries late into the night. To Emily, Daniel's calm personality was part of what made him feel safe. And safety was something Daniel valued deeply. He double-checked door locks. He kept emergency supplies in the trunk of his car. He shared his location with Emily whenever he was driving long distances. Small habits that most people barely notice, which is why the night Daniel vanished makes so little sense to the people who knew him best. October 14th had started like any other Saturday. Daniel spent the afternoon helping his younger brother, Alex, move into a new apartment across town. The two of them hauled boxes up narrow staircases, assembled furniture, and ordered pizza once the hardest work was finished. By early evening, Daniel headed back toward downtown. He stopped at his apartment, changed into a light jacket, and sent Emily a quick text asking if she wanted to meet for dinner the next night. She replied a few minutes later with a simple message. "Of course. I miss you." Nothing about those messages suggested anything was wrong. Around 10:30 p.m., Daniel left his apartment again. Security footage from the building lobby shows him exiting alone, holding his phone and car keys. He walks through the glass doors and disappears into the street outside. Investigators later reconstruct his movements through a patchwork of cameras scattered across downtown Columbus. A traffic camera catches his car turning onto Summit Street. Another shows him stopping briefly at a red light near Fifth Avenue. Everything about the timeline appears ordinary. Daniel drives calmly. No sudden detours. No signs he's being followed. At 11:36 p.m., his car pulls into the parking lot of a small convenience store just a few minutes from his apartment. It's the kind of late-night stop people make without thinking. A quick snack, a drink, maybe something small for the next morning. The store's security camera captures Daniel entering through the front door. Inside, he walks directly to the refrigerated section, grabs a bottle of iced tea, and pauses near the counter to check a message on his phone. The clerk rings up the purchase. The receipt timestamp reads 11:41 p.m. Daniel thanks him, pushes open the door, and steps back into the night. 30 seconds later, the camera above the entrance records him walking across the parking lot. This is the moment investigators will watch dozens of times. Daniel moves toward the far edge of a lot where his car is parked just outside the camera's frame. He looks calm, unhurried. For a brief second, he glances down at his phone again. Then he continues walking and disappears from view. At first, no one realizes anything unusual has happened. But by the following afternoon, Daniel Mercer will be missing. His phone will stop responding. His car will remain exactly where it was parked. And that quiet stretch of surveillance footage will become the final confirmed record of his movements. The last moment where everything still appears normal. But what investigators didn't realize is that somewhere in that same frame, in a place no one thought to examine carefully, something else is happening. Something subtle. Something easy to dismiss. And this is where the story truly begins to change. The next morning begins with a silence that no one notices at first. Daniel Mercer is supposed to meet his brother for breakfast at 9:30 a.m. A small diner on High Street they have been visiting since college. Daniel suggests it the night before, joking that Alex still owes him for helping move furniture all afternoon. At 9:28 a.m., Alex sends a message. Running late? No response. 10 minutes pass. Then 20. Daniel is rarely late for anything. By 10:15, Alex calls him. The phone rings twice before going straight to voicemail. Still, it doesn't immediately feel like an emergency. Phones die. People oversleep. But by noon, the quiet becomes harder to explain. Emily tries calling next. No answer. She sends a message asking if everything is okay. Another hour passes with nothing. By early afternoon, Alex decides to drive to Daniel's apartment. The building sits along a busy downtown street. Restaurants are already filling with the lunch crowd when he pulls into the small resident parking area behind the complex. Daniel's car is not there. That alone isn't alarming. But when Alex goes upstairs and knocks on the apartment door, no one answers. Inside, everything appears untouched. The bed is still neatly made. The kitchen counter holds the empty glass Daniel used the night before. His laptop sits closed on the desk, and Daniel is nowhere. By early evening, the family files a missing persons report with the Columbus Division of Police. At first, investigators treat it the way they treat most adult disappearances. Cautiously, adults sometimes leave without warning. They take space. They turn off their phones. But Daniel Mercer does not fit that pattern. His job requires constant availability. His bank accounts show no unusual withdrawals. His phone stops transmitting location data at exactly 11:43 p.m. the previous night, just 1 minute after the convenience store footage. Detectives begin retracing his last known movements. The first step is the store. The clerk remembers him immediately. Quiet guy. Bought iced tea. Paid with a debit card. Nothing unusual. Then, investigators pull the surveillance footage. The camera above the entrance shows Daniel walking out of the store at 11:42 p.m. The timestamp glows in the corner of the screen. He pushes the door open and steps into the parking lot. From this moment forward, the video becomes the centerpiece of the timeline. Daniel walks across the lot from left to right. His hands are visible. One holds the drink bottle. The other briefly checks his phone. Behind him, a sedan pulls away from the gas pumps and exits the lot. Another car enters from the street and parks near the storefront. Everything appears ordinary. Daniel reaches the far edge of the frame and disappears from view. Detectives pause the video. They rewind it. They watch it again and again. There is no struggle, no sudden movement, no figure approaching him, nothing that suggests danger. The logical assumption becomes simple. Daniel walked to his car, got inside, and drove away. Investigators move to the next step. They begin searching traffic cameras and nearby security systems, looking for Daniel's vehicle leaving the area. But that footage never appears. No camera captures his car exiting the lot. At first, detectives assume the cameras simply missed it. Columbus has hundreds of surveillance points, but there are still blind spots between buildings and intersections. Still, the absence of Daniel's vehicle begins raising questions. 2 days later, officers return to the convenience store parking lot. Daniel's car is still there, parked in the same space, locked, undisturbed. Inside the vehicle, they find Daniel's backpack on the passenger seat. His laptop is inside. His wallet is in the center console. The only thing missing is Daniel himself. That discovery shifts the tone of the investigation immediately. Now detectives know something happened after Daniel walked out of that store. The question becomes what? The footage is reviewed again, this time more slowly. Investigators focus on Daniel himself, his posture, his movements, the way he glances down at his phone. They examine every second for signs of distress, but they see nothing. No one approaches him. No vehicle stops nearby. No shadow moves across the pavement. And because the camera angle only covers part of the parking lot, Daniel disappears just before reaching where his car is parked, which means whatever happened next occurred outside the camera's view. For weeks, detectives pursue the most common explanations. A random abduction, a robbery gone wrong. Perhaps Daniel encountered someone in the darkness beyond the frame. Police interview people who were in the store that night. They identify the driver of the sedan seen leaving the pumps. They question the person who parked near the storefront. None of them saw anything unusual. None of them remember Daniel interacting with anyone. The case slowly begins to lose momentum. Without witnesses or physical evidence, investigators have little to work with. Search teams comb nearby alleys and abandoned buildings. Divers check sections of the Scioto River. Daniel Mercer remains missing. Months pass. The convenience store footage becomes a background detail rather than the center of the case. Detectives believe they already understand it. A man walks out of the store. He leaves the camera's view. Something happens beyond the frame. The investigation begins focusing elsewhere. Phone records, online contacts, work connections. But this is where the case takes its most critical wrong turn. Because while detectives are looking outward, trying to find new leads, they stop looking carefully at the one piece of evidence that captured Daniel's final known moments. the video, and everyone reviewing it is watching the same thing. Daniel Mercer walking across the parking lot. What no one realizes is that they are all looking in the wrong place. Because while Daniel moves calmly toward the edge of the frame, something else enters the camera's view. Something small, something easy to dismiss as background noise. For months, it sits there unnoticed, archived with the rest of the case files, until one person decides to watch the footage differently. And when they do, they see a detail that investigators had dismissed as nothing. A detail hiding in the corner of the frame. A moment that had been there the entire time. And once it is finally noticed, the entire investigation begins to unravel. By the summer of 2024, the investigation into Daniel Mercer's disappearance has slowed to a near standstill. Nearly 9 months have passed. Detectives have followed every conventional lead. They examined Daniel's financial records. They interviewed co-workers. They pulled phone data and reviewed hundreds of hours of nearby surveillance footage. None of it explains how a cautious, predictable man could vanish between a store entrance and his parked car. For Daniel's family, the waiting becomes unbearable. His mother still calls his phone every few days, listening to the voicemail greeting just to hear his voice. His brother Alex keeps searching online forums for any mention of Daniel's name. Emily stops driving past the convenience store entirely. The parking lot feels like a place frozen in time. But inside the Columbus Police Digital Evidence Archive, the footage remains. Dozens of clips, hundreds of gigabytes of recordings. Most of it reviewed once, cataloged, and then left untouched. Until one afternoon in July, when a digital forensic analyst named Rachel Kim is assigned to help organize cold case media files for long-term storage. Rachel is not part of the original investigation team. She has no emotional connection to the case and no expectations about what she might find. Her task is simple: verify the files, label them correctly, ensure nothing has been corrupted. Routine work. One of the files she opens is the convenience store video. She has seen hundreds of similar clips before. People entering stores, cars pulling into parking lots, cameras capturing the quiet movements of everyday life. At first, this footage looks exactly the same. Daniel Mercer exits the store at 11:42 p.m. Rachel watches the clip once. Then she plays it again, not because she notices something obvious, but because something about the timing catches her attention. The moment Daniel checks his phone while walking. It lasts less than a second. Rachel pauses the video and drags the timeline back a few frames. Then she slows the playback speed. Frame by frame, Daniel walks across the lot. The camera timestamp continues to glow in the corner. 11 hours 42 minutes and 18 seconds. 11 hours 42 minutes and 19 seconds. 11 hours 42 minutes and 20 seconds. And that is when Rachel notices something investigators had never focused on. Not Daniel. The background. In the far right corner of the frame, partially hidden behind a row of parked cars, a pair of headlights flickers on. The vehicle itself is barely visible. Most of it sits outside the camera's view. At normal speed, the light lasts less than a second. Easy to ignore. Rachel rewinds again. This time she zooms in on the corner of the image. The headlights illuminate briefly, then disappear. But something else happens at the same moment. Daniel stops walking. Not completely, but his stride changes. His head tilts slightly toward the source of the light. It is subtle. So subtle that no one reviewing the footage at normal speed ever noticed it. Rachel leans closer to the monitor. She rewinds again and advances frame by frame. The headlights flicker once more. And now, zoomed in and slowed down, a shape becomes visible behind the parked cars. The edge of a vehicle slowly pulling forward. Not entering the lot. Waiting. Positioned exactly where Daniel's car is parked beyond the camera's view. Rachel freezes the frame. Because, for the first time, the timeline begins to make sense. The reason Daniel's car never left the lot. The reason there was no struggle on camera. Someone was already waiting where he was about to walk. And when Rachel enhances the footage further, adjusting contrast and brightness, another detail emerges. The vehicle's license plate reflects the light for just a fraction of a second, just long enough for a partial sequence of numbers to appear. It had been there the entire time, missed because everyone reviewing the video had focused on the center of the frame, on Daniel. Everyone was watching the wrong thing. Within days, detectives reopened the case. Traffic cameras are searched again, this time for vehicles matching the partial plate number and shape seen in the enhanced footage. The search quickly narrows. A dark gray SUV registered to a man named Victor Hale. Hale lives less than 2 miles from the convenience store. And more importantly, investigators discover that Hale worked as a contracted security technician for the same healthcare network where Daniel Mercer was employed. Their paths had crossed before, but not in a way anyone initially connected to the disappearance. When detectives obtain a warrant to examine Hale's work history, they uncover a detail that changes everything. 2 months before Daniel vanished, he had filed an internal cybersecurity report. The report flagged unauthorized access attempts within the hospital network. Someone had been using contractor credentials to enter restricted systems. The credentials belonged to Victor Hale. Internal administrators began investigating the breach. But the inquiry never moved forward because Daniel Mercer disappeared before the final report was submitted. Confronted with the reopened investigation and the surveillance footage, Hale eventually admits to meeting Daniel that night. He claims it was supposed to be a conversation. He waited near Daniel's car to confront him about the cybersecurity report. But the situation escalated. What began as a confrontation turned into something far more serious. Authorities later locate evidence tying Hale to Daniel's disappearance, finally giving the Mercer family answers after nearly a year of uncertainty. And when detectives review the convenience store footage one final time, the moment that solved the entire case still lasts less than a second. A faint pair of headlights, a reflection in a license plate, a tiny movement in the corner of a frame. Evidence investigators originally dismissed as nothing. But in the end, that overlooked detail rewrote the entire case. Because the truth had been captured on camera from the very beginning, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to finally see it. And sometimes, the most important clue in an investigation is not the thing everyone is watching. It is the one thing no one thought to look at.